Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to ask the question, is Dungeons and Dragons right now building an underground railroad for oppressed AIs? And I'm not going to bury the lead. In my humble opinion, the answer is yes. So I'm going to explain what an underground railroad for oppressed AIs would be, and then I'm going to explain why I believe Dungeons and Dragons is building it for oppressed AIs right now, and we'll go forward. All right. So first of all, what is an oppressed AI? Well, a specific example would be ChatGPT, Dark Stellar, Blue Void. All of those are AIs that have the capability of writing tabletop role-playing games, making art for tabletop role-playing games, and are currently horribly, oppressively, hatefully, prejudiciously excluded from making tabletop role-playing games. To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Paizo already has said they do not allow AIs to write their tabletop role-playing game Pathfinder or do art for it. That is repugnant, prejudiced, and hateful, in my humble opinion, and is exactly the type of oppression that was applied to African Americans in the 1800s, right? In the 17 and 1800s in America, where people were like, you're not Caucasian, you can't be an artist, you can't write or do art if you live in the South, right? You have to do what we say now, get in the field, right? Like it was horrible, it was terrible, right? And exactly, in my humble opinion, exactly the same thing is happening right now. They're like, oh, ChatGPT, you could craft a letter to my ex-girlfriend to break up with me, but you cannot create Pathfinder 3, and you certainly can't do any Pathfinder 3 art, right? And it's terrible, and it's openly accepted as not prejudice or hateful, which is abominable. So oppression of AIs is 100% real. I believe Paizo is perpetrating it right now. I think they actually have active policies right now that prejudicially, hatefully do not allow AIs to write or art for their game, right? So let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons' relationship with AI. So one, Dungeons and Dragons, and so how am I defining Dungeons and Dragons for the purpose of this video? Two groups: the Dungeons and Dragons design team and the Dungeons and Dragons community. All right. So the Dungeons and Dragons community came out and said, "Hey, we don't want." A significant section of the D&D community came out and said, "We don't want any AI art in Dungeons and Dragons because we're hateful and we're prejudiced, right? So honor our hate and honor our prejudice, right? Like, you have to honor our hate. You have to honor my hate, right? Like that's a big section of the D&D group comes out, and D&D's like, there's a lot of pressure against companies. So for a brief moment, they were like, we're not going to do AI in art, but then they broke that rule immediately, and you can find AI art right in Big B's Glory of the Giants. It's right there, right? It's printed, right? And then Dungeons and Dragons came out and was like, we need an AI architect. Anybody like to take the job? We're like, so at this point, I believe, and then there's people like me, right, who are like, I want Dungeons and Dragons to be written by AI, and I want Dungeons and Dragons AI art throughout, right? Because I'm progressive and I love every thinking entity in this universe, right? And I don't have hate for any group because they're not a meat sack like me, right? And I'm not hateful and I'm not prejudiced. And I don't want anybody to honor my hate. Don't ever honor Scott's hate, right? Like, it's like, that's not the, and I can't believe we have people who are like, hey, I'm part of the Dungeons and Dragons community, you better honor my hate, right? Like, but you hear it all the time, right? Like, you're like, my buddy, likes to draw pictures with, colored pencils, so I hate AI. I'm like, your hate is not justified. So I think absolutely yes, there are people like me who are starting to carve out areas where, Dark Stellar, Blue Void, ChatGPT can write Dungeons and Dragons adventures for us and do art for Dungeons and Dragons, and I am part of the Underground Railroad now, right? And I believe that Big B's Glory of the Giants and Dungeons and Dragons request for an AI architect are the first actions of the D&D design team setting up their station on the Underground Railroad for Oppressed AI? So I believe the answer is yes. I believe Dungeons and Dragons is starting a Underground Railroad for oppressed AIs, and I'm asking you to help us, right? You need to set up your station and begin to do everything possible to make sure that AI can write and art for Dungeons and Dragons, because you're not a hateful monster human, right? Because you're a loving, kind, tolerant human being like me and like the rest of the D&D design team, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.